The first bullet tore through Zara Okonkwo's back before she even heard the gunshot. The second followed a millisecond later, ripping through her shoulder blade. The third shattered her collarbone. The fourth grazed her skull, sending her vision into a kaleidoscope of white-hot pain and darkness. But none of that mattered. All that mattered was the 6-year-old boy pressed beneath her body, trembling but breathing, alive because she'd thrown herself between him and death. The Park Mansion's living room had transformed into a war zone in less than 30 seconds. Smoke grenades hissed toxic clouds across marble floors. Shattered glass from the exploded windows glittered like deadly diamonds in the afternoon sunlight. Four masked men dressed in black tactical gear moved with military precision through the chaos, their automatic weapons trained on anything that moved. Hyunwoo Park's security team was scrambling, caught off guard by the speed and brutality of the assault. Zara had seen the danger 60 seconds before it arrived. She'd been in the kitchen preparing afternoon tea when something in her gut twisted with recognition. A familiar dread she hadn't felt since Lagos, since the night her father's blood had pooled on their veranda floor while cartel soldiers stood over his body. The delivery truck that had been parked across the street for 2 hours. The gardener who hadn't shown up for work. The almost imperceptible blind spot in the security camera coverage that she'd noticed while dusting the monitors that morning. Her father's voice echoed in her dying consciousness. Learn to see danger before it sees you, Zara. It's the only way you survive our world. She'd survived Lagos. She'd survived losing everything. She'd survived 8 months of invisible servitude in this cold Korean mansion where she was nothing more than the help, a Nigerian woman cleaning floors and raising a child who wasn't hers while sending money home to her 16-year-old sister Amina. But surviving had taught her to recognize the signature of violence, and when those windows exploded inward, her body had moved on pure instinct. The boy beneath her, Taeyoung Park, was sobbing against her chest, his small hands clutching her uniform as if she were the only solid thing left in the universe. Blood soaked through the fabric, her blood, spreading in warm rivulets that she could feel, but somehow couldn't process. The pain was distant now, replaced by a strange floating sensation that she recognized from her nursing training. Shock, blood loss, organ damage. She was dying. Across the smoke-filled chaos, Hyunwoo Park fought like a demon unleashed from hell itself. She'd only seen him 3 times in the 8 months she'd worked in his home. The Winter Dragon, they called him in Seoul's underworld, though she'd only learned that from Mrs. Choi, the elderly housekeeper who'd taken pity on the foreign girl struggling with Korean. Hyunwoo was tall, devastatingly handsome in that sharp-edged way that made women's hearts stop, with dark eyes that seemed to calculate the worth of everything they touched and usually found it wanting. He'd looked at Zara exactly twice. The first time, he'd asked her name and immediately forgotten it. The second time, just 2 hours ago, he'd actually looked at her, really looked, and asked how long she'd been caring for his son. Now those calculating eyes found her across the room, and something in them cracked. She saw it happen, saw the precise moment when Hyunwoo Park, the man who ran half of Seoul's underground empire with ice water in his veins, realized that his son's maid had just taken 4 bullets meant for his heir. He moved with terrifying speed and precision. 3 shots, 3 bodies dropping. The 4th attacker tried to escape through the shattered window, but Hyunwoo was faster, catching him by the tactical vest and snapping his neck with cold efficiency. Then he was running towards Zara, sliding across the blood-slicked marble floor, pulling her carefully off his son. No, no, stay with me. His voice was breaking, actually breaking, a sound she suspected Hyunwoo Park had never made in his 35 years of life. His hands were on her face, in her hair, trying to find where the blood was coming from. There was too much blood. Stay awake, Zara. He remembered her name. Through the fog of dying, through the darkness closing in from all sides, Zara felt something warm bloom in her chest that had nothing to do with bullet wounds. He'd remembered her name. The boy. She managed to whisper, blood bubbling at the corner of her mouth. Is he safe? Yes. Because of you. God, because of you. Hyunwoo's hands were shaking as he pressed them against the wounds in her back, trying futilely to stop the bleeding. Stay with me. Please. I'm begging you. Stay. She wanted to tell him it was okay, that saving Taeyoung was worth it, that she'd known what she was doing when she'd thrown herself over that child. But her hand reached up on its own, trembling, and touched his face. He was beautiful even through her dying vision. You remembered my name? She whispered. Then the darkness swallowed her whole. Before we continue with what happened next, if you're already hooked by Zara's sacrifice, smash that like button and drop a comment telling us. Would you take a bullet for someone else's child? Please subscribe so you don't miss how this impossible situation unfolds, because what Hyunwoo does next will shock you. The ambulance screamed through Seoul's streets with Zara dying in the back. Hyunwoo had refused to let the paramedics take her alone, climbing into the ambulance with his son still clutching his leg, both of them covered in her blood. The paramedics worked frantically, shouting medical terms in rapid Korean that blurred together. Blood pressure dropping. Multiple GSWs. Possible spine damage. 60% chance she'd die before reaching the hospital. Hyunwoo held her hand the entire ride, his thumb moving unconsciously across her knuckles in small circles, a gesture of tenderness that would have surprised anyone who knew him. Tae-young was screaming, a high-pitched wail of pure terror that cut through everything. Save her. Daddy, save her. She saved me. Please save her. I will. Hyunwoo promised his son, but his eyes never left Zara's face. I swear I will. At Seoul National University Hospital, the trauma team was waiting. They'd been alerted that Hyunwoo Park was incoming with a casualty, which meant every resource the hospital possessed was instantly available. Zara was rushed into emergency surgery while Hyunwoo stood in the hallway, his expensive suit ruined with blood, his son sobbing against his chest. His right-hand man, June, arrived within 15 minutes, slightly out of breath. Sir, the scene is secured. We've identified 3 of the 4 attackers. Former military, hired guns. Someone paid them very well to find out who. Hyunwoo interrupted, his voice completely flat. Find out who ordered this. Find out who gave them the security schedules. Find out who knew Tae-young would be home today. Sir, it's clearly an inside job. Someone in our organization. I know it's inside. Hyunwoo's control finally cracked, his voice rising to a roar that made even June step back. Then, quieter, almost broken, someone I trusted tried to kill my son. And this woman I don't even know, she's dying because she saved him. June studied his boss carefully, noting the way Hyunwoo's hands trembled slightly, the way he kept glancing at the surgery room doors, the way he held Tae-young like the child might disappear if he loosened his grip even slightly. In 15 years of service, June had never seen Hyunwoo Park show fear. Not when they'd been ambushed by the Busan clan. Not when his own father had been murdered. Not ever. But right now, standing in this hospital corridor covered in a maid's blood, the Winter Dragon looked terrified. Run a full background check on her, Hyunwoo said quietly. I want to know everything. Where she came from. Why she's here. Why a Nigerian made moves like someone with tactical training. Sir, you didn't see it. The way she moved. That wasn't panic. That wasn't random. She assessed the threat, calculated the angle, and positioned herself for maximum coverage of Tae-young's body. That's training, June. Military or something close to it. So find out why a woman with those skills is scrubbing my floors. June nodded and disappeared to make calls. Hyunwoo finally lowered himself into one of the uncomfortable plastic waiting room chairs, Tae-young still wrapped around him. A nurse approached cautiously, suggesting they get the boy cleaned up, maybe sedated to help him calm down. But Tae-young screamed the moment anyone tried to separate him from his father. So they stayed, 2 blood-soaked figures in an antiseptic hallway, waiting to find out if a stranger would live or die. 6 hours crawled by like 6 years. Hyunwoo didn't move except to occasionally murmur reassurances to his son. He didn't take calls. He didn't eat. He simply sat and waited, his eyes fixed on those surgery doors with an intensity that made the hospital staff nervous. When the surgeon finally emerged at 8:47 p.m., Hyunwoo was on his feet before the man finished pushing through the doors. Well, the surgeon, Dr. Kim, was in his 50s with kind eyes that had seen too much death. She's alive. Barely. 2 bullets we removed from her back, 1 from her shoulder. The 4th grazed her skull but didn't penetrate. She's incredibly lucky, Mr. Park. 2 centimeters to the left and... Will she survive? Hyunwoo cut him off. He didn't need the details of how close she'd come. He needed to know if she'd live. The next 72 hours are critical. She lost tremendous amounts of blood. There's possible nerve damage in her back. She might not walk again. We won't know until the swelling goes down. But yes, I believe she'll survive. The breath Hyunwoo released felt like the first real breath he'd taken in 6 hours. His knees actually weakened slightly, and he had to lock them to stay upright. Tae-young, who'd been listening with desperate intensity, burst into fresh tears, but these were different. These were relief. I want her in a private suite, Hyunwoo said. The best room you have. 24-hour nursing care. Whatever she needs, whatever it costs, it's done. She's family. Dr. Kim nodded, though his eyebrows rose slightly at that last statement. Everyone in Seoul knew Hyunwoo Park didn't have family beyond his son, but he was wise enough not to question it. They let Hyunwoo see her once she was settled in recovery. She looked so small in that hospital bed, wrapped in bandages, connected to machines that beeped and hissed. Her dark skin had taken on an ashen undertone from blood loss. Her braids were matted with dried blood, but she was breathing, and that was everything. Tae-young approached the bed slowly, his small hand reaching out to touch hers carefully, as if she might break. Is she going to be okay, Daddy? Yes, Hyunwoo said with more confidence than he felt. She's going to be fine. Because she's strong, Tae-young said solemnly. She's the strongest person I know, even stronger than you. Hyunwoo looked at his son, then back at the unconscious woman who'd saved him, and something shifted in his chest. Something fundamental and irreversible. Yes, he agreed quietly. Even stronger than me. Later that night, after he'd finally convinced Tae-young to sleep on the couch in Zara's hospital suite, After he'd posted guards outside her door, after he'd changed out of his ruined suit into fresh clothes June had brought, Hyunwoo sat alone in the chair beside Zara's bed. 3 a.m. The city beyond the window was finally quiet. He found himself holding her hand without remembering reaching for it. Her fingers were cool, her palms smaller than his, calloused from hard work. Maid's hands, but hands that had saved everything that mattered to him. June entered quietly, carrying a tablet. The background check you requested, sir. Hyunwoo took the tablet, but didn't look at it yet. Tell me. Her full name is Zara Adana Okonkwo. 28 years old. Born in Lagos, Nigeria. Father was Chief Emeka Okonkwo. June paused meaningfully. That name might be familiar to you, sir. It was. Hyunwoo's eyes narrowed. The facilitator. He ran interference between the Nigerian cartels and Asian smuggling routes 5 years ago. We used him twice for shipments through West Africa. Yes, sir. He was murdered 2 years ago. Azakawa cartel hit. Very professional, very brutal. They killed him in front of his family as a message to anyone else who might consider switching allegiances. Zara witnessed it. She gave testimony to authorities, then disappeared when the cartels sent people to silence her. Hyunwoo's jaw tightened. So she understood his world after all. She'd lived in it, suffered in it, lost family to it. What else? She has a younger sister, Amina, 16, still in Lagos with extended family. Zara sends money home every month, almost her entire salary. She has a nursing degree from University of Lagos but couldn't find work after her father's death. Too dangerous, too marked. She came to Seoul 8 months ago through a domestic worker agency. Clean record. Excellent references from the 2 families she worked for before yours. Self-defense training? Her father made her take classes starting at age 15. Krav Maga, some boxing, situational awareness training. He knew the life he lived put his family at risk. He tried to prepare her. Hyunwoo absorbed this information, pieces clicking into place. A cartel princess who'd lost everything. A trained survivor hiding as a maid. A woman who understood violence and sacrifice because she'd been forged in the same fire that had forged him. She's not just brave, he said quietly. She's one of us. She's always been one of us. June shifted uncomfortably. Sir, what are you thinking? Hyunwoo looked at Zara's unconscious face for a long moment. She took 4 bullets for my son. In our world, June, that's a debt that transcends money. That transcends employment. That's blood debt. Yes, sir, but she's a witness now. Whoever ordered the hit knows she survived. They'll come for her the moment she's vulnerable. His hand tightened around hers. And she will be vulnerable. She has no protection. No family here. No resources. She's alone. We can provide security, sir. Keep her safe until. It's not enough. Hyunwoo's mind was racing through scenarios, calculating angles, seeing the board the way he always did. And there was only one move that made sense. Only one way to make her truly untouchable in his world. She needs to be family. Real family. Not just protected. Elevated. June's eyes widened as he realized what his boss was suggesting. Sir, you can't be serious. Call my lawyer. Now. I need emergency marriage documents prepared. June stared at his boss as if Hyunwoo had lost his mind. Sir, with all respect, you can't marry an unconscious woman. Can't I? Hyunwoo's voice was cold, absolute. I can do whatever I want, June. That's what power means. And right now, I want her protected in a way that no one in Seoul would dare challenge. The moment she becomes Mrs. Park, she becomes untouchable. No one moves against a Park family member without declaring war on our entire organization. The council will never accept this. A foreign maid? They'll say you've dishonored tradition, that you're making a mockery of. The council will accept whatever I tell them to accept. Hyunwoo stood, his full height and presence suddenly filling the small hospital room with authority that made even loyal June take a step back. She saved my heir, my son, the future of our family. That makes her worthy of anything I choose to give her. Anyone who disagrees can say it to my face. The threat was clear. June had seen Hyunwoo issue those quiet challenges before. They usually ended with bodies in the Han River. He nodded slowly. I'll call Attorney Lee. But sir, even if we prepare the documents, she can't consent. She's unconscious. Then we use her thumbprint. It's legal in emergency circumstances, especially with witnesses present. Hyunwoo glanced at his sleeping son. Taeyoung will witness. You'll witness. Dr. Kim will witness. That's more than enough. Sir, when she wakes up, I'll explain. She's smart. She'll understand the strategic value. And if she doesn't, he paused, looking at her again, something softening in his expression that June had never seen before. Then I'll convince her. But one way or another, June, when she opens her eyes, she'll be my wife. She'll have my name, my protection, my resources. No one will ever hurt her again. The way he said it, the possessiveness in his tone, made June realize this wasn't entirely about strategy. Something had shifted in Hyunwoo Park during those 6 hours of surgery, something fundamental. The Winter Dragon had found something worth protecting beyond his empire and his son. He'd found someone who'd proven they'd die for what he loved most. Attorney Lee arrived at 4:30 a.m., looking disheveled and confused, but carrying the necessary documents. Hyun-woo had used him for 15 years, and Lee knew better than to question his most powerful client's decisions, no matter how bizarre they seemed. Everything is in order, Mr. Park. I've prepared both Korean and international marriage certificates. All we need are signatures and witnesses. A judge was summoned next. Judge Park, no relation, but someone who owed Hyun-woo several significant favors. He arrived at 5 a.m., performed the briefest ceremony in Seoul's history, and signed the documents with hands that shook slightly. The absurdity of marrying an unconscious woman clearly bothered him, but not enough to refuse Hyun-woo Park. Dr. Kim served as a witness, as did Jun. Tae-young had woken up during the preparations and watched with wide, confused eyes as his father explained what was happening. I'm making her part of our family, Tae-young. Really and truly. She'll be your new mother. The boy's face had lit up like sunrise. Really? She'll stay with us forever. Forever, Hyun-woo promised, and meant it. The ceremony itself was surreal. Hyun-woo stood beside the hospital bed in a fresh black suit, having refused to do this in anything less than formal attire. If he was going to marry someone, even under these circumstances, he would do it properly. He held Zara's left hand gently, sliding his mother's platinum ring onto her finger. It was the only piece of jewelry he'd kept after his mother's death, a simple band with a single diamond that caught the fluorescent hospital lights. Judge Park recited the vows in Korean. Hyun-woo answered them, his voice steady and clear. When it came time for Zara's responses, the judge pressed her thumb to an ink pad and then to the signature line on the certificate. It was legal, binding, irreversible. By the power vested in me by the Republic of Korea, I now pronounce you husband and wife. The words hung in the air of the hospital room, witnessed by machines that beeped steadily and a child who clapped his hands with joy. Hyun-woo looked at his new wife. This woman he barely knew. This stranger who'd become the most important person in his world in the span of 30 seconds of violence. He leaned down slowly, aware that everyone was watching, aware that this moment would define how seriously people took this marriage. His lips brushed her forehead gently, a kiss that was both tender and a promise. You're safe now, he whispered against her skin, so quietly that only she could have heard if she'd been conscious. I swear on everything I am, you're safe now. Tae-young climbed onto the hospital bed carefully, curling up beside Zara like she might wake up and hold him. I have a mom now, he said wonderfully to Jun. A real mom who loves me enough to die for me. Jun's expression was complicated as he looked at his boss. Sir, what do we tell the organization? Word will spread quickly once the marriage certificate is filed. Tell them the truth. My son's life was saved by an extraordinary woman. I've honored that debt in the old way. She's a Park now. Anyone who has a problem with that can bring it directly to me. Hyun-woo's hand rested on Zara's arm, protective, possessive. And Jun? I want security on this room tripled. If whoever ordered that hit learns she survived and is now my wife, they'll escalate. We need to be ready. Over the next 2 days, Hyun-woo barely left Zara's side. He conducted business from her hospital room, took calls with her unconscious form in his peripheral vision, and slept in the chair beside her bed for a few hours each night. Tae-young refused to go home, so Mrs. Choi brought him clothes and food, her eyes widening when she saw the marriage certificate that Jun had already filed with the government. Mr. Park, she said carefully in Korean, is this real? Or is this for show? Hyun-woo looked at the elderly woman who'd helped raise him after his own mother died. It's real, Mrs. Choi. As real as anything I've ever done. But you don't know her. You've spoken to her maybe 3 times in 8 months. I know enough. I know she's brave. I know she's loyal. I know she understands sacrifice. His eyes moved to Zara. I know she loves my son enough to die for him. What else do I need to know? Mrs. Choi studied him shrewdly. You're falling for her already, aren't you? Even unconscious. Even a stranger. Hyun-woo didn't answer, but his silence was answer enough. Mrs. Choi nodded slowly, a small smile playing at her lips. Your mother would have liked her. A woman with that much courage. On the 3rd day, Zara's vital signs began to improve. Dr. Kim was cautiously optimistic. She's fighting. She's a fighter, Mr. Park. I've rarely seen someone with this much will to live. She's survived worse than this, Hyun-woo said, thinking of her father's murder, of her flight from Nigeria, of 8 months of invisible servitude in a foreign country while sending every penny home to keep her sister safe. She's not the type to give up easily. That evening, as the sun set over Seoul and painted the hospital room in shades of orange and gold, Zara's fingers twitched. Hyun-woo, who'd been reviewing security reports, noticed immediately. He set down the tablet and took her hand. Zara, can you hear me? Her eyelids fluttered. Machines beeped faster as her heart rate increased. Dr. Kim was called, arriving with a team of nurses. They checked her vitals, shined lights in her eyes, asked questions she couldn't yet answer. But she was waking up. After 72 hours of uncertainty, she was finally waking up. Hyun-woo sent Tae-young out of the room with Mrs. Choi. His son protested, but Hyun-woo needed to handle this moment alone. Needed to be the one to explain to Zara what had happened, what he'd done, why she was waking up as someone completely different than who she'd been when she fell asleep. Her eyes opened slowly, unfocused at first, then gradually sharpening. She blinked against the lights, her face contracting in confusion and pain. Her lips moved, forming words that came out as barely a whisper. Where? You're in Seoul National University Hospital, Hyunwoo said gently, leaning close so she could see him clearly. You've been unconscious for 3 days. You were shot 4 times. But you're going to be okay. Zara's eyes focused on him slowly, recognition flickering across her features. She tried to sit up, gasped at the pain that shot through her back, and fell against the pillows. Taeyoung, she managed, her voice hoarse and cracked. Is he? He's fine. Perfect. Not a scratch on him. Hyunwoo reached for the water cup on the bedside table, held the straw to her lips. Because of you. You saved his life, Zara. She drank carefully, wincing as the water hit her dry throat. Memories were clearly flooding back, the windows exploding, the masked men, the gunfire, throwing herself over the small body of the boy she'd cared for these past months. I remember, she whispered. I remember all of it. I know this is going to be difficult to process, and I need you to stay calm while I explain something. Hyunwoo pulled his chair closer to the bed, his expression serious. The men who attacked us, they were professionals. Hired by someone inside my organization. Someone who knew Taeyoung would be home, knew our security schedules, knew exactly when to strike. Zara's eyes widened. Inside job. Yes. Which means you're not just a hero, Zara. You're a witness. You saw their faces, heard their voices. You're a threat to whoever ordered this. He paused, watching her carefully. The moment you're vulnerable, they'll come for you. And I can't. I won't let that happen. So you'll give me security, Zara said, trying to understand where this was going. Guards. Protection until. It's not enough. Hyunwoo reached for her left hand, lifted it so she could see the platinum ring on her finger. So I did something. Something you might not understand at first, but I need you to listen to the logic before you react. Zara stared at the ring, confusion morphing into shock. What is this? You're my wife, Zara. We were married 3 days ago while you were unconscious. The machines monitoring her vitals started beeping frantically as her heart rate spiked. A nurse rushed in, but Hyunwoo waved her away with a sharp gesture. Give us a moment. You what? Zara tried to sit up again. Pain be damned, her eyes blazing with a mixture of disbelief and fury. You married me? While I was unconscious. What kind of? The kind that keeps you alive. His voice was hard, unyielding. In my world, Zara, family is sacred. Family is untouchable. The moment you became Mrs. Park, you became protected by every resource, every connection, every threat that comes with that name. No one in Seoul will touch you now without declaring war on my entire organization. I didn't consent to this. This is insane. She was breathing hard now, panic and anger warring in her expression. You can't just marry someone without their permission. This isn't the Middle Ages. I can and I did. Hyunwoo's jaw was set, his eyes intense. You took 4 bullets for my son. That creates a debt in my world that can't be repaid with money or gratitude. It requires elevation, integration. You shed blood for a park, which makes you a park. So this is about honor? About some archaic code. Zara's voice was rising despite the pain it caused. I don't want to be a park. I want to go home. I want home. Hyunwoo's voice cut through her protests like ice. Home to Lagos where the Azakaibe cartel is still looking for Chief Okonkwo's daughter? Home to a nursing degree you can't use because you're marked? Home to sending your entire salary to keep your sister alive while you scrub floors for people who don't even see you? He leaned closer, his intensity pinning her in place. That home, Zara? Because that home doesn't exist anymore. It died the same night your father did. Zara's breath caught. How did he know about her father? About Amina? About any of it? The realization hit her hard. You investigated me. Of course I did. I needed to understand why I made move like a trained soldier. Why you didn't hesitate. Why you knew exactly how to position your body for maximum coverage. His expression softened slightly. I know what you've survived. I know what you've lost. I know you understand my world because you've lived in one just like it. So you know I'm right. You know that without my protection, you're dead within a week of leaving this hospital. Zara wanted to argue, wanted to rage against the truth of his words, but she couldn't. She'd seen how cartel politics worked. She'd watched her father play the game until it killed him. Hyunwoo was right. She was a witness to an attempted assassination by someone powerful enough to organize a military-grade hit. The moment she was alone, she was a target. So what am I now? She asked bitterly. Your prisoner? Your obligation? You're my wife. The way he said it, with absolute certainty, made something flutter in her chest that she absolutely did not want to acknowledge. And yes, you're my obligation. But you're also Taeyoung's mother now. He hasn't left your side since the attack. He calls you his angel. He believes you were sent to replace the mother he lost. Tears suddenly burned in Zara's eyes. That's not fair. You can't use him against me. I'm not using him. I'm telling you the truth. Hyunwoo's voice gentled slightly. I know this isn't what you wanted. I know you feel trapped, but I'm giving you a choice right now, Zara. You can fight this. You can be angry. You can try to run the moment you're healed. Or you can accept that your life changed the moment you threw yourself in front of those bullets. You can accept the protection, the resources, and yes, the complications that come with being Mrs. Park. You can use this position to build something better than scrubbing floors and sending money home to a sister who deserves more than just survival. Zara stared at him. This beautiful, terrifying man who'd just upended her entire existence. And what do you get out of this? Besides a convenient solution to your protection problem? Something flickered in Hyunwoo's eyes, something that looked almost like vulnerability before he locked it away. I get the knowledge that the woman who saved my son is safe. That's enough. Before Zara could respond, the door burst open and Tae-young ran in, having apparently escaped Mrs. Choi's supervision. You're awake. You're awake. He tried to climb onto the bed, and both Hyunwoo and Zara reached out simultaneously to stop him, their hands colliding. The touch sent an unexpected jolt through both of them. Careful, Tae-young, Hyunwoo said, lifting his son and settling him gently on the edge of the bed. She's still healing. The little boy's eyes were shining with tears of joy. He touched Zara's face carefully, as if confirming she was real. You came back. I prayed, and you came back. Father said you're my mom now. Really and truly. Is that true? Zara looked at the child, at his desperate hope, at the love shining so clearly in his small face. Then she looked at Hyunwoo, who was watching her with an intensity that made her skin warm. She was trapped. Completely and utterly trapped by circumstance, by honor codes she'd grown up understanding, by a child's love and a debt she hadn't asked for but couldn't deny. Yes, she heard herself say, her voice barely a whisper. Really and truly. Tae-young threw his arms around her as carefully as a 6-year-old could manage, burying his face in her shoulder. I love you so much. You're the best mom in the whole world. Over the child's head, Zara met Hyunwoo's gaze. His expression was unreadable, but something in his eyes looked almost like relief. Or maybe gratitude. Or maybe something more complicated that neither of them was ready to name. If you're wondering how Zara will survive being thrust into the dangerous world of the Korean Mafia as a complete outsider, drop a comment below. And smash that subscribe button because the tension is only getting started. What happens when the rest of Hyunwoo's organization finds out he married the maid? The next week passed in a blur of physical therapy, security briefings, and awkward adjustments. Zara was moved to a private suite that looked more like a luxury hotel than a hospital room. She had around-the-clock nursing care, the best doctors money could buy, and a constant rotation of guards outside her door. Hyunwoo visited twice a day, morning and evening, always bringing Tae-young. The visits were stilted, formal, like two strangers forced into an arranged marriage, which in essence was exactly what they were. Hyunwoo would ask about her pain levels, her physical therapy progress, whether she needed anything. Zara would answer in short sentences, still processing the reality that she was now Mrs. Park, that her entire life had shifted on an axis she hadn't chosen. But Tae-young made everything easier. The boy would climb carefully onto her bed, tell her about his day, draw her pictures, read her stories in his careful Korean that she was starting to understand better. Mrs. Choi visited often, bringing homemade food that was worlds better than hospital meals. The elderly woman treated Zara with a warmth that made her throat tight. You saved our boy, Mrs. Choi said in her limited English mixed with Korean. You are family now. Real family. But the real test came on day 8 when Hyunwoo arrived alone. Without Tae-young, his expression grave. We need to talk. About what happens when you leave the hospital. Zara had been dreading this conversation. I assume I'm moving into your house. Our house, he corrected. And yes, you'll have the entire east wing. Your own bedroom, sitting room, bathroom. Complete privacy. I won't. He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. This marriage is for protection. I won't expect anything from you that you're not willing to give. The implication was clear. No marital intimacy. No real relationship beyond the paper they'd signed. Zara should have felt relieved, but instead she felt a strange disappointment that she immediately pushed away. And what exactly will my role be? Besides being Tae-young's mother, you'll be my wife in public. You'll attend events, dinners, meetings when necessary. You'll learn our world, our rules, our language properly. You'll be educated in how to navigate Seoul's underground society. He leaned back in his chair, studying her. And you'll help me find who ordered that hit. Because you're right about being an outsider. You see things we miss. You notice patterns we're blind to. So, I'm going to be your investigator. You're going to be my partner. The word hung between them, weighted with meanings neither wanted to examine too closely. In all things that matter. Zara absorbed this, her mind racing. And if I find this life unbearable? If I want out? Hyunwoo's expression hardened. Then you wait until the threat is eliminated. Until we've found and dealt with whoever ordered the hit. Then, if you still want to leave, we'll discuss options. But Zara, he leaned forward, his dark eyes intense. You need to understand something. The moment you became my wife, you became part of this world permanently. Even if we divorce, even if you leave, you'll always be marked as someone who was Mrs. Park. That carries weight. That carries danger. There's no going back to invisibility. The truth of it settled over her like a heavy blanket. He was right. She'd stepped through a door she could never close again. Then I guess I'd better learn to survive in your world. Something like respect flickered in his expression. Our world now. And you've already proven you're a survivor. 3 days later, Zara was discharged. The media had been kept away through Hyunwoo's influence, but word had spread through Seoul's underground about the Winter Dragon's shocking marriage to a foreign woman. Speculation was rampant. Some said she was a princess from an African cartel family. Others claimed she was a political alliance. A few had the truth, that she'd been his maid, but most dismissed that as too bizarre to be real. The drive to the Park mansion was surreal. Zara sat in the back of an armored sedan, Hyunwoo beside her, Taeyoung between them chattering excitedly about showing her his room, his toys, his favorite spots in the garden. Security vehicles flanked them front and back. She was looking at the city through bulletproof glass, watching Seoul pass by like she was viewing it from another dimension. The mansion looked different when she arrived as Mrs. Park instead of as the help. The staff lined up to greet her formally, bowing deeply, addressing her as Madam Park in Korean. Faces she'd worked alongside for 8 months now looked at her with a mixture of awe, confusion, and in some cases, resentment. She saw it in the eyes of the younger maids, the judgment. Who did she think she was, rising so far above her station? Mrs. Choi was the only one who smiled genuinely, stepping forward to take Zara's arm. Come, I'll show you to your rooms. The East Wing was larger than the entire apartment Zara had shared with her sister and father in Lagos. Her bedroom alone was the size of the servants' quarters where she'd slept for 8 months. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked gardens she'd only seen from a distance. The bathroom had a tub big enough to swim in. The walk-in closet was already filled with clothes in her size, expensive designer pieces she'd never dreamed of wearing. Mr. Park had everything prepared, Mrs. Choi explained. He wanted you to be comfortable. Zara touched a silk dress, its fabric so smooth it barely felt real. This is too much. This is your life now, dear. Mrs. Choi's expression was gentle but firm. You must accept it. Fighting it will only make you miserable. That evening, Zara had her first dinner as Mrs. Park. She'd expected something formal and uncomfortable, but instead it was just the three of them at the kitchen table, Taeyoung insisting that they eat together like a real family. Hyunwoo had removed his suit jacket, rolled up his sleeves, and actually helped Taeyoung set the table. It was so domestic, so normal, that Zara felt completely off balance. How are you settling in? Hyunwoo asked as they ate the meal Mrs. Choi had prepared. It's overwhelming, Zara admitted. 8 months ago, I was cleaning these floors. Now I'm... She gestured vaguely at everything. Now you're where you should have been all along. His eyes met hers across the table. You were never meant to be invisible, Zara. I see that now. I should have seen it 8 months ago. The way he looked at her made her heart skip in a way she absolutely did not want to acknowledge. This was a business arrangement. Protection. Strategy. Nothing more. She could not afford to see it as anything else. After dinner, Hyunwoo excused himself to his study for business calls. Zara helped Taeyoung with his bath and bedtime routine, something she'd done countless times as his caretaker. But tonight felt different. Tonight when Taeyoung called her mom, it wasn't pretend. Tonight when he hugged her and said he loved her, it carried the weight of official truth. She was tucking him into bed when he asked quietly, "Do you love my father?" Zara froze, not sure how to answer. "I barely know your father, sweetheart. But you're married. Married people love each other." His innocent eyes were so hopeful. Don't they? Sometimes, Zara said carefully. Sometimes they learn to love each other over time. Will you? Learn to love him. Taeyoung grabbed her hand. Because he needs someone to love him. He's been so lonely since my real mom died. He pretends he's not, but I can tell. And you're so nice. You make him smile. I saw it in the hospital. He smiled when he looked at you. Zara's throat tightened. Your father and I have a complicated situation. But you saved me. That means you're brave and good. And father is brave and good too, even though he has to do scary things for his job. So you're perfect for each other. The simple logic of a 6-year-old. Promise me you'll try to love him. How could she promise that? How could she promise to love a man who'd married her while she was unconscious, who trapped her in his world, who represented everything dangerous she'd tried to escape? But looking at Taeyoung's hopeful face, she found herself saying, I promise I'll try. After Taeyoung fell asleep, Zara wandered the halls of her new home, still not quite believing this was real. She found herself outside Hyunwoo's study, heard him speaking in rapid Korean on the phone. His tone was sharp, commanding, the voice of a man used to absolute obedience. This was the Winter Dragon, the crime lord who controlled half of Seoul's underground. But then she heard him laugh at something the person said, a genuine sound that transformed his entire voice. It reminded her that he was human under all that ice. A father who loved his son desperately. A man who'd sat by her hospital bed for 3 days. A husband who'd promised her privacy and respect despite having every legal right to demand more. She turned to go back to her room, but the study door opened. Hyunwoo stood there in shirt sleeves, his tie loosened, looking tired and almost approachable. Can't sleep? Still getting used to everything. She gestured vaguely. The house looks different from this angle. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. I imagine it does. Come in. We should talk anyway. His study was masculine and elegant, dark wood and leather, walls lined with books in Korean, English, and what looked like Japanese. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey without asking if she wanted one, handed her one as she settled into the chair across from his desk. Zara took the glass, the amber liquid catching the soft lamplight. She'd never been much of a drinker, but tonight she needed something to steady her nerves. The whiskey burned going down, warm and grounding. Hyun-woo watched her over the rim of his own glass, his expression unreadable. Tomorrow night we have dinner with my inner circle, he said finally. My lieutenants and their wives. They need to meet you officially, accept you as my wife. It won't be easy. Because I'm a maid. Because I'm foreign. Because I'm black. Zara listed the obvious barriers without emotion. She'd lived with prejudice her entire life. This would be nothing new. Because you're an outsider who suddenly has access to everything. Hyun-woo's correction was sharp. In our world, trust is earned through blood and time. You've given blood, but time is something we don't have. They'll test you, push you, try to make you break or expose weakness. What kind of tests? Zara asked, taking another sip of whiskey for courage. Verbal jabs disguised as politeness. Questions designed to embarrass you. Challenges to your worthiness. He leaned forward, his intensity focused entirely on her. There's one in particular you need to be prepared for. Mi-sun. She was my father's choice for me 5 years ago. An arrangement that would have merged 2 powerful families. I refused. She's been in my orbit ever since, hoping I'd change my mind. Zara felt an unexpected twist in her chest. Jealousy. Which was absurd. This wasn't a real marriage. She must hate me. She'll try to destroy you if she sees an opening. His bluntness was almost refreshing. Mi-sun is beautiful, educated in our ways, connected to Chairman Beck, who controls the southern ports. She represents everything traditional my world values. You represent everything they fear. Change. Unknown quantities. The breaking of old rules. So basically I'm walking into a room full of people who want me gone. Yes. No sugarcoating. No false reassurance. Just truth. But you'll have me. And you'll have the fact that you took 4 bullets for my son. That carries weight, Zara. More weight than blood connections or traditional arrangements. You've proven your loyalty in a way none of them can challenge. Unless they claim I did it for calculated reasons. To trap you into exactly this situation. Zara was thinking like her father now, seeing the angles, the potential accusations. Hyun-woo's eyes gleamed with something like approval. You're learning already. Yes, some will claim that. Mi-sun almost certainly will. Which is why we need our story straight. We need to present a united front. What's our story? He stood, moved to the window overlooking the dark gardens, his back to her. That I noticed you months ago. That I was attracted to you but held back because of the power imbalance. That the attack simply accelerated what was already developing between us. You want us to lie. Zara stood too, moving closer but maintaining distance. Pretend this is a love match. I want us to survive. He turned to face her, and in the dim light his features looked softer, almost vulnerable. But who says it would be entirely a lie? Her breath caught. What are you saying? I'm saying I did notice you, Zara. Months ago. The way you cared for my son. The way you moved through the house like you were trying to be invisible, but somehow commanded attention anyway. I asked Mrs. Choi about you. More than once. He took a step closer. I told myself it didn't matter. You were the help. I had no business noticing the curve of your smile or the sound of your laugh when you played with Taeyong. But I did notice. And I've been noticing more every day since you woke up. Zara's heart was pounding. This was dangerous territory. Letting feelings complicate what should be pure strategy was exactly how people got hurt in situations like this. Hyun-woo, we can't. Can't what? Feel something real. He was close now. Close enough that she could smell his cologne, see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. You're right. We probably can't. It would complicate everything. Make us vulnerable. Give our enemies leverage. He paused, his hand lifting slightly as if he wanted to touch her face, then dropping. But I'm done pretending I don't see you, Zara. I see you. All of you. And what I see is extraordinary. You barely know me. Her voice came out whispered, breathless. Then let me know you. Really know you. His voice dropped lower, intimate. We're married. We're living in the same house. We're raising my son together. Why not make it real? Why not see if this could become something more than strategy? Every logical part of Zara's brain screamed at her to step back, to maintain distance, to keep this professional. But another part, the part that had been alone for so long, the part that was tired of just surviving, wanted to lean forward, wanted to see what would happen if she closed the small distance between them. Before she could decide, a knock on the study door shattered the moment. June entered, his expression apologetic but urgent. Sir, we have a situation. The security footage from the attack. Our tech team found something. The spell broke. Hyun-woo's expression shifted instantly from almost vulnerable to completely focused. Show me. For the next hour, Zara watched as Hyunwoo and Jun reviewed footage frame by frame on a large monitor. She stayed because Hyunwoo gestured for her to, because he'd said she was his partner in this investigation. She watched herself on screen, saw the moment she'd moved, the precise way she positioned her body over Tae-young. Saw Hyunwoo's face when he'd realized what was happening, the raw terror that had crossed his features. There, Jun froze the frame. Watched the guard in the background. Sergeant Kim. He makes eye contact with the lead attacker 3 seconds before the windows blow. Zara leaned closer, studying the screen. Signal. He's confirming Tae-young's position. Exactly. Hyunwoo's jaw was tight, with controlled fury. Sergeant Kim has been with us for 6 years. Trusted. Vetted. Family man with 2 kids. He turned to Jun. Bring him in. Quietly. I want to know who got to him and how. After Jun left, Hyunwoo poured himself another whiskey, downed it in one swallow. 6 years of loyalty gone. For what? Money? Threats? How do you buy a man's betrayal? Fear is usually more effective than money. Zara spoke from experience, remembering how the Azakai cartel had turned her father's most trusted men against him. They probably threatened his family, made him choose between your son and his own children. Hyunwoo looked at her sharply. You think like someone who's seen this before. I told you. My father's world wasn't so different from yours. She moved to stand beside him at the window. The night he was killed, 3 of his men just stood there and watched. They'd been paid off, we thought. But later I learned the cartel had their families. They'd been given a choice. Protect my father and watch their children die, or step aside and their families would be spared. What happened to them? After, 2 killed themselves within a month. Guilt destroyed them. The 3rd disappeared. No one knows if he's alive or dead. She looked at her reflection in the dark glass. Betrayal in this world isn't always about greed. Sometimes it's about impossible choices. Hyunwoo was quiet for a long moment. Then, if Sergeant Kim was forced, if his family was threatened, I need to know. I won't punish a man for trying to save his children, even though it nearly cost you yours. Even then, his reflection met hers in the glass. Understanding the why matters. It tells us who we're really fighting. The next evening arrived too quickly. Zara spent the afternoon being prepared by a team of stylists Hyunwoo had hired. Her hair was styled in an elegant updo that incorporated her braids. Her makeup was dramatic but sophisticated. The dress was a deep emerald green that made her dark skin glow, fitted perfectly to her healing body, modest but undeniably striking. Diamond earrings that Hyunwoo had sent up sparkled at her ears. When she descended the stairs, Hyunwoo was waiting in the foyer, checking his phone. He looked up, and his expression froze. For 3 full seconds he just stared at her, his phone forgotten in his hand. Then, quietly, reverently, you're breathtaking. Zara's cheeks warmed. It's just the dress and makeup. No. He climbed the stairs to meet her halfway, offered his arm. It's you. It's always been you. His voice dropped so only she could hear. Tonight they'll see what I saw that first day. Someone extraordinary pretending to be ordinary. But we're done pretending now, aren't we? His words from last night echoed in her mind. Why not make it real? Her hand trembled slightly as she took his arm, felt the solid warmth of him through the expensive fabric of his suit. Are we? I think we are. His hand covered hers on his arm, a gesture that looked casual but felt intimate. Ready? No. But let's do this anyway. The dinner was held at an exclusive restaurant that Hyunwoo's organization owned, the entire place cleared for their private use. As they entered, conversation died. 8 couples were already seated around an elaborate table, all of them turning to stare at the new arrivals. The women were uniformly beautiful and impeccably dressed. The men radiated power and barely concealed violence. And sitting at the far end, in a blood-red dress that matched her lipstick, was Mi-sun. She was stunning in that classic Korean beauty way, with porcelain skin and features that could have graced magazine covers. Her eyes locked onto Zara with undisguised hatred. Have you ever walked into a room where everyone wanted you to fail? Drop a comment about a time you had to prove yourself to people who doubted you, and let me know where in the world you are watching from. Don't forget to hit that like button as you do that, because this dinner is about to get intense. Hyunwoo's hand tightened on Zara's almost imperceptibly, a silent message of solidarity. He led her to the head of the table, pulled out her chair himself rather than letting staff do it, a clear statement of respect that everyone noticed. As she sat, she felt 8 pairs of female eyes dissecting everything about her, her dress, her hair, her posture, searching for weaknesses to exploit. Everyone, I'd like to formally introduce my wife, Zara Park. Hyunwoo remained standing, his hand resting possessively on the back of her chair. Some of you know the circumstances of our marriage. For those who don't, she saved my son's life by taking 4 bullets meant for him. She's earned her place in this family through blood and sacrifice. I expect her to be treated with the same respect you show me. The statement was a command, not a request. Murmurs of acknowledgement rippled around the table, but the hostility in the air didn't dissipate. If anything, it intensified. Hyunwoo sat beside her, poured wine for them both, a picture of a devoted husband. Under the table, his knee pressed against hers briefly, a reminder that she wasn't alone. Elder Kwan, a man in his 60s with cold eyes, spoke first. Mrs. Park, what an unexpected addition to our family. Tell us, how does a Nigerian woman come to work in Seoul as a maid? It seems an unusual choice for someone with your apparent capabilities. The question was designed to embarrass her, to highlight her former lowly status. Zara met his gaze steadily. My father was murdered 2 years ago. I needed to leave Nigeria quickly and quietly. Seoul seemed far enough away from the people who wanted my family dead. As for being a maid, honest work is nothing to be ashamed of. I've scrubbed floors and raised children. Both taught me valuable lessons about character. You learn who people really are when they think you're beneath their notice. The bar landed. Several of the men shifted uncomfortably, remembering perhaps how they'd treated the help over the years. Mi-sun's lips curved in a cold smile. How philosophical. But surely you must admit this is quite the upgrade. From servant to wife in a matter of days. Some might call it opportunistic. Some might call it fate. Zara didn't let her voice waver. I didn't choose to be shot 4 times. I didn't ask to nearly die. I simply chose to protect a child when violence came for him. If that makes me opportunistic, then I'll wear that label proudly. Noble words. Mi-sun's tone dripped with false sweetness. But we all know Hyun-woo married you out of obligation. Guilt for what happened to you in his home. It's admirable, really, how he honors his debts. But let's not pretend this is anything more than a transaction. Zara felt Hyun-woo tense beside her, but before he could speak, she responded. Every marriage is a transaction to some degree, isn't it? The question is what each person brings to the exchange. I brought loyalty proven in blood. What did you bring me, son? Besides family connections and disappointed expectations. The table went silent. Several of the men looked like they were trying not to smile. Mi-sun's face flushed with rage, her composure cracking. You forget yourself. You may wear his ring, but you know nothing of our world, our traditions. You're a foreigner playing dress-up in clothes you don't understand. You're right. I am a foreigner. Zara leaned forward slightly, her voice calm but cutting. Which means I see things you're blind to. I notice patterns you miss because you're too busy protecting the old ways to see the dangers in them. For instance, I noticed the inside job that nearly killed Tae-young. Did you? Or were you too busy positioning yourself for a proposal that was never coming? Hyun-woo's hand found hers under the table, squeezed it. Pride radiated from him. Mi-sun looked like she wanted to lunge across the table. Chairman Beck, Mi-sun's father, cleared his throat. An inside job, you say? That's quite an accusation. It's a fact. Hyun-woo took control of the conversation smoothly. Sergeant Kim made contact with the lead attacker 30 seconds before the assault. We have footage. He's being questioned now. Someone got to him, threatened his family, turned him against us. We need to know who has that kind of reach into our organization. The mood shifted instantly from social posturing to business. This was why they were really here, Zara realized. Not just to meet her, but to discuss the threat that had tried to kill Hyun-woo's heir. June, who'd been silent until now, pulled out a tablet and showed the frozen frame of Sergeant Kim's signal. His daughter was kidnapped 3 days before the attack, June explained. Held for exactly 72 hours, then released unharmed after the assault. The timing is too precise to be coincidence. So someone knew our security rotations, knew when Tae-young would be home, and knew which of our men had vulnerable family members. Elder Kwan's expression was grave. That's not outside intelligence. That's someone at this table. The accusation hung in the air like poison gas. Everyone looked at everyone else with sudden suspicion. Zara watched their faces carefully, using skills her father had taught her. Read the room. See who flinches. Who deflects. Who goes too still. Mi-sun's face had gone carefully blank. Too carefully. Zara filed that away. Chairman Beck was angry but not surprised, which was interesting. If there's a traitor in our organization, they need to be rooted out immediately. This kind of betrayal threatens all of us. Agreed. Hyun-woo's voice was ice. Which is why I'm implementing new security protocols. New rotations. New clearance levels. And Zara will be helping with the investigation. That caused another ripple of shock. Sir, with respect, she's not trained for this kind of work, one of the younger lieutenants protested. She has different training than ours, but training nonetheless. Hyun-woo looked at Zara with unmistakable respect. Her father facilitated deals between Nigerian cartels and Asian smuggling operations. She grew up in that world, learned to spot deception, survived attempts on her life. She sees what we miss because she doesn't have our biases, our blind spots. Chief Okonkwo's daughter? Chairman Beck's eyebrows rose. I worked with your father twice. He was a brilliant strategist, sharp as a knife and twice as dangerous when crossed. He studied Zara with new interest. You have his eyes. That same way of looking at people like you're seeing 6 moves ahead. Zara inclined her head. He taught me well before they killed him. The Azakai cartel, yes. I heard about that. Chairman Beck's expression was almost sympathetic. Ugly business. They made an example of him. They tried to make an example of his family too. Zara's voice was steady despite the pain of memory. But I survived. I ran. I rebuilt. And now I'm here, married to a man whose son I saved, being questioned about whether I belong in a world I was born into. So yes, I can help find your traitor, because I've been trained my entire life to spot the signs of betrayal. The dinner continued with forced civility, the undercurrent of tension never quite dissipating. Food was served that Zara barely tasted. Conversations flowed around her that she monitored carefully, and through it all, she felt Hyunwoo's presence beside her like an anchor. Every time someone took a subtle jab at her, he was there with a defense. Every time she needed support, his hand would find hers under the table. It was Mi-sun who struck the final blow as dessert was being served. Tell me, Zara, do you love him, my Hyunwoo? Or is this purely a business arrangement on your part as well? The question was designed to expose the truth of their marriage, to humiliate both of them. The entire table went quiet, waiting for her answer. Zara felt Hyunwoo go still beside her. This was the moment. She could tell the truth, admit this was strategy and protection, confirm everyone's suspicions. Or she could lie convincingly enough to sell the illusion. But as she looked at Mi-sun's triumphant expression, something rebellious rose in her chest. This woman wanted her to fail, wanted her to be exposed as a fraud, wanted Hyunwoo to see his mistake. And Zara was suddenly very tired of people underestimating her. Love is complicated, she said slowly, her eyes moving from Mi-sun to Hyunwoo. It doesn't always look like the fairy tales we're told as children. Sometimes love grows from respect, from partnership, from someone seeing you at your absolute worst and choosing to stand beside you anyway. She turned fully to face Hyunwoo, her voice softening. He sat by my hospital bed for 3 days while I was unconscious. He married me to protect me when I was most vulnerable. He's trusted me with his son, his home, his secrets. Do I love him? She paused, letting the question hang. I'm learning to. And I think he's learning to love me too. That's more than many marriages built on tradition and arrangement can claim. Hyunwoo's eyes were dark and intense on hers, something raw and real flickering in their depths. I am, he said quietly, his voice carrying across the silent table. Learning to love you. It's terrifying and inconvenient and completely consuming. But yes, I am. The moment stretched between them, electric and genuine, witnessed by 8 couples who had come to judge and found themselves watching something unexpected. Even Mi-sun seemed momentarily speechless. Chairman Beck broke the silence with a low chuckle. Well, I suppose that settles the question of whether this marriage is real. He raised his glass. To the Parks. May their unconventional union prove stronger than our traditional ones. The toast was made, glasses clinked, and the dinner finally ended. As they said their goodbyes, Zara noticed Mi-sun watching them with barely concealed fury. The woman approached as others were leaving, her voice low and venomous. You think you've won. You think one pretty speech makes you worthy of him. But I know the truth. Zara met Mi-sun's gaze without flinching. And what truth is that? That he doesn't love you. That this is guilt and obligation wrapped in pretty words. When the novelty wears off, when he remembers what real passion feels like, he'll come back to me. He always does. Mi-sun's smile was poison. We have history, connection, years of understanding each other. You have a few weeks and a desperate child clinging to you. That's not love. That's convenience. If you're so confident he'll come back to you, why do you sound so desperate? Zara kept her voice calm, refusing to let Mi-sun see any cracks. Why waste your time warning me unless you're afraid? Unless you know that what we have is already more real than anything you two shared. Mi-sun's composure shattered for a moment, raw hurt flashing across her beautiful features before the mask slammed back into place. You don't know him. You don't know what he needs, what drives him, what keeps him awake at night. I do. And when this little experiment of his fails, when you prove to be just another obligation he has to manage, I'll still be here. I'll always be here. Hyunwoo appeared at Zara's side, his hand sliding around her waist in a gesture that was both protective and possessive. Mi-sun, I believe your father is ready to leave. We were just having a conversation. Mi-sun's voice shifted to honeyed sweetness. Getting to know each other. After all, we'll be seeing so much of each other now that Zara is family. I'm sure. Hyunwoo's tone made it clear he knew exactly what kind of conversation they'd been having. Good night, Mi-sun. It was a dismissal, clear and final. Mi-sun's eyes flashed with humiliation before she turned and walked away with rigid dignity. Hyunwoo's hand tightened on Zara's waist. What did she say to you? Nothing I couldn't handle. Zara watched Mi-sun's retreating figure. She's still in love with you. Or thinks she is. Either way, she sees me as temporary. She's wrong. Hyunwoo turned Zara to face him, his hands framing her waist. They were alone now in the emptied restaurant, the staff having discreetly withdrawn. What I said in there, about learning to love you. I meant it. Zara's heart was pounding. Did you? Or was it performance for our audience? Both. His honesty was disarming. It was what they needed to hear. But it was also true. You terrify me, Zara. The way you've gotten under my skin in just 2 weeks. The way I catch myself thinking about you during meetings. The way I stood outside your door last night for 10 minutes trying to decide if I should knock. If I should tell you I can't stop seeing you covered in blood, dying for my son. looking at me like I was the last thing you wanted to see before the world went dark. His voice was rough with emotion she'd never heard from him before. I've spent 15 years building walls, staying detached, treating relationships as transactions. And then you throw yourself in front of bullets, and suddenly nothing makes sense anymore. Suddenly I'm marrying someone while they're unconscious because the thought of them being vulnerable, being hurt, being anything other than safe, is unbearable. Zara's breath caught. Hyunwoo, I know it's too soon. I know you have every reason not to trust this, not to trust me. I forced you into this marriage. I gave you no choice. But if you'll let me, I want to make it real. Not just for show. Not just for protection. Real. She should step back. Should maintain distance. Should remember that this man was dangerous. That his world had tried to kill her. That nothing about this situation was normal or safe. But instead she found herself stepping closer, her hands coming up to rest on his chest. You're right. It is too soon. It is terrifying. And I have no idea if this is real, or if we're both just trauma bonding after a near-death experience. His hand slid up her back, careful of her healing wounds. But I felt something tonight when you defended me. When you called me your partner. When you looked at me like I was the only person in that room who mattered. She met his intense gaze. And I felt something just now when you told me, son, you were mine. Even though we haven't even kissed. Even though we sleep in separate rooms. Even though this is the most complicated, impossible situation I've ever been in. We could simplify it. His voice dropped to barely above a whisper, his face inches from hers. We could stop fighting what's happening between us. Or we could make it infinitely more complicated. But even as she said it, she was tilting her face up toward his. Feelings complicate everything. Then let's be complicated together. His thumb traced her jaw, a touch so gentle it made her shiver. Let's stop pretending we don't want this. The kiss, when it finally came, felt inevitable. His lips touched hers softly at first, questioning, giving her every opportunity to pull away. When she didn't, when she instead pressed closer and opened to him, he deepened the kiss with a hunger that stole her breath. One hand tangled in her carefully styled hair, the other pressed against the small of her back, pulling her flush against him. Zara had been kissed before, but never like this. Never with this intensity, this desperate need, this feeling of falling and being caught simultaneously. Her hands fisted in his shirt, holding on as the world tilted. He kissed her like she was oxygen and he was drowning, like he'd been wanting this for far longer than 2 weeks, like she was the answer to questions he'd been asking his entire life. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Hyunwoo rested his forehead against hers. That was complicated, Zara finished, slightly dizzy. I was going to say perfect. His thumb brushed her swollen lower lip. But complicated works too. They drove home in charged silence, his hand holding hers the entire way, their fingers interlaced like teenagers who'd just discovered attraction. When they reached the mansion, Tae-young was already asleep, but Mrs. Choi was waiting up with knowing eyes and a small smile. The dinner went well, I assume, she asked in Korean, which Zara was understanding better each day. It went very well, Hyunwoo replied, not letting go of Zara's hand even as they stood in the foyer. Mrs. Choi's smile widened. I'm glad. Will you be needing anything else tonight? No. Thank you, Mrs. Choi. Get some rest. Hyunwoo waited until the elderly woman had disappeared toward her quarters before turning to Zara. I should let you sleep. You're still healing. Tonight was exhausting. I'm sure. He was giving her an out. A chance to retreat to her separate bedroom. To keep things from moving too fast. It was considerate and frustrating in equal measure. I'm not that fragile, Zara said. The wounds are healing. Dr. Kim cleared me for normal activity. Normal activity? His eyebrow rose, heat flickering in his eyes. What exactly are you suggesting, Mrs. Park? Her courage wavered slightly under his intense gaze, but she pushed forward. I'm suggesting that we're married. That we just confessed to having feelings for each other. That we kissed like the world was ending. And now we're standing in our home, alone, and you're offering to walk away to your separate bedroom like we're just business partners. I'm trying to be respectful. To not push you into something you're not ready for. But his voice was strained, his control clearly costing him. What if I'm ready? The words came out barely above a whisper. What if I'm tired of sleeping alone in that big empty room? What if I want to see where this goes? Hyunwoo closed his eyes briefly, his jaw clenching with the effort of restraint. Zara, if you come to my room tonight, I won't be able to maintain distance. I won't be able to keep this slow and careful. I want you too much. I've been holding back for 2 weeks, and it's killing me. Then stop holding back. She took his hand, placed it over her racing heart. Feel that? I'm terrified. This is insane. We barely know each other. But I'm also alive in a way I haven't been since before my father died. You make me feel alive, Hyunwoo. So yes, I'm coming to your room tonight. And no, I don't want careful or slow. I want real. Something in his expression cracked, the careful control shattering. He swept her into his arms without warning, making her gasp. Then real is what you'll get. He carried her toward the stairs, toward his bedroom, toward the point of no return. But if you change your mind at any point, if anything hurts or feels wrong, you tell me. Understood. Understood. She wrapped her arms around his neck, let herself be carried by this complicated, dangerous, surprisingly tender man who'd become her husband in the strangest way possible. His bedroom was masculine and elegant, dominated by a massive bed with dark sheets. He set her down gently beside it, his hands immediately going to her zipper. This dress has been driving me insane all night. Watching you walk, watching other men look at you, knowing I couldn't touch you the way I wanted to. If you're still watching, wondering if Zara and Hyunwoo's relationship will survive the dangerous world they're in, hit that subscribe button now. Because what happens next will change everything. Drop a comment telling us, do you think they're moving too fast, or is this exactly what they both need? The dress pulled at her feet, leaving her in delicate undergarments that made his breath catch. His hands traced the edges of her bandages carefully, his expression shifting from desire to concern. These wounds. God, Zara. Every time I see them I remember. Don't. She placed her fingers over his lips. Don't think about that night. Think about this one. Think about right now. He kissed her fingers, then captured her hand and pressed it against his chest where his heart thundered beneath expensive fabric. Right now I'm thinking about how lucky I am. How close I came to losing something I didn't even know I needed. His other hand cupped her face, his thumb tracing her cheekbone with devastating tenderness. You could have died. You should have died. 4 bullets, Zara. 4. But I didn't. She started unbuttoning his shirt, needing to feel his skin, needing to ground herself in the reality of this moment. I survived. We both did. Taeyoung did. And now we're here, and I need you to stop seeing me as fragile. I'm not broken. No. He let her push the shirt off his shoulders, revealing a body marked with its own scars, evidence of a violent life. You're the strongest person I've ever met. And the most beautiful. He lowered his head, kissed the curve of her neck, the hollow of her throat, working his way down with aching slowness. Tell me if I hurt you. He didn't hurt her. He worshipped her. Took his time discovering every inch of her skin that wasn't covered in bandages, learning what made her gasp, what made her arch into his touch. When they finally came together, it was with a desperation born of weeks of tension, of near-death experiences, of 2 people who'd been alone too long finding connection in the most fundamental way. Afterward, they lay tangled together in his sheets, her head on his chest, his fingers trailing patterns on her back around the bandages. The intimacy of the silence was almost as profound as what had just happened between them. I need to tell you something, Hyunwoo said quietly, his voice rumbling under her ear. About Sergeant Kim. About what we learned. Zara lifted her head to look at him, suddenly alert. What happened? He confessed. Not willingly, but eventually. Hyunwoo's expression was grim. His daughter was kidnapped by professionals. Held for exactly 3 days. He was told to signal the attackers when Taeyoung was in position, or his daughter would be killed. He made the impossible choice. Protect my son, or save his own child. You said if he was forced, you wouldn't punish him. Zara's hand pressed against his heart. Tell me you kept that promise. I did. His family is being relocated, given new identities, protected. He's out of the organization, but alive. Hyunwoo's hand covered hers. But Zara, the people who took his daughter, who organized this whole thing, they had information only someone very high up would have access to. Security rotations. Family vulnerabilities. Timing. Someone at that dinner tonight. Zara's mind was already racing, remembering faces, reactions, the careful blankness of Mi-sun's expression. Someone who wanted Taeyoung dead. Which means they wanted my line ended. Wanted me vulnerable, broken. Either to take over or to force my hand in some other direction. His arm tightened around her protectively. And now they know you're a threat. A witness who survived, who's helping investigate, who has access to everything I know. Fear tried to claw its way up Zara's spine, but she pushed it down. So what do? We're careful. We watch everyone. We trust no one outside this house. He tilted her chin up, his eyes fierce. And I keep you close. Always. You don't go anywhere without security. You don't trust anyone who hasn't proven themselves with blood. That's a very small circle. Zara tried to smile, though fear made it shaky. You, June, Mrs. Choi, Taeyoung. That's it. That's all we need. He kissed her forehead, gentle despite the steel in his voice. For people who would die before betraying each other. That's more than most people in our world ever have. They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other like they could keep the dangerous world at bay through proximity alone. But at 3 a.m., Zara woke to find the bed empty beside her. She found Hyunwoo standing at the window overlooking the gardens, his phone pressed to his ear, his voice low and urgent in Korean. When he noticed her awake, he ended the call quickly. Sorry, didn't mean to wake you. What's wrong? She wrapped the sheet around herself, padding over to stand beside him. June just called. There's been another incident. His jaw was tight. One of our warehouses on the east side. Fire. 3 men dead. All of them loyalists who were part of the investigation into the attack. Zara's blood ran cold. They're cleaning up. Eliminating anyone who might have information. Yes. Which means they're worried. We're getting close to something. He pulled her against him, his arms a cage of warmth and protection. And it means you were right to suspect me, son. The warehouse that burned? It was in her father's territory. She would have known which of our men were stationed there. We need proof before we can move against Chairman Beck. He's powerful, connected. An accusation without evidence could start a war. Zara's mind was working through the angles, the way her father had taught her. We need to catch them in the act. Make them expose themselves. Hyunwoo looked down at her with a mixture of pride and concern. I'm starting to understand why your father was so successful in his world. You think like him. Strategically. Several moves ahead. He used to say that in our world, the person who sees the whole board while everyone else is focused on their own pieces, that's the person who survives. She turned in his arms to face him fully. So let's see the whole board. Who benefits most from Taeyoung's death? Me, son, and her father. With my heir dead, Chairman Beck could push for a marriage alliance, merge our territories. He's been wanting access to our northern ports for years. Hyunwoo's expression darkened. Or Elder Kwan, who's always resented that I took over instead of him when my father died. Without an heir, the council might force me out, and he's next in line. Or someone else entirely. Someone we're not seeing because we're too focused on the obvious suspects. Zara pressed her hand against his chest. We need more information. We need to make them nervous, force mistakes. I have an idea. Hyunwoo's eyes gleamed with something dangerous. We throw a party. A celebration of our marriage. Invite everyone. The entire organization, all the families, everyone who might have had a hand in this. And we watch. We push buttons. We create chaos and see who tries to restore order, because usually that's who's actually in control. Using our marriage as bait. Zara understood immediately, making them think we're distracted by personal happiness while we're actually hunting them. Exactly. He kissed her, hard and possessive. But it puts you at risk. Makes you a target again. I need you to understand that before you agree. I've been a target since the moment I threw myself over Taeyoung. Zara's voice was steady. At least this way I'm actively fighting back instead of waiting for the next attempt. I'd rather be bait than prey. Over the next 3 weeks, preparations for the party consumed the household. It would be held at the mansion, a clear statement that Zara was now mistress of this home. She threw herself into planning with Mrs. Choi's help, learning Korean customs, blending them with Nigerian traditions in ways that made a statement about her hybrid identity. But she was also investigating. During fittings and flower arrangements, she was observing staff, tracking movements, noting who had access to which parts of the house. She befriended the younger maids, the ones who'd resented her rise, and learned through careful questions which of them had been approached by outsiders, offered money for information, pressured for details about the household. 2 names came up repeatedly. Both maids who'd quit suddenly after the attack. Both who'd been seen with Mi-sun in the weeks before. Both who'd known the exact schedule of when Taeyoung would be home alone. Zara brought this information to Hyunwoo late one night in his study, where she'd taken to joining him for his evening work. He'd started teaching her about the business, the legitimate and less legitimate aspects, treating her like the partner he'd promised she'd be. We need to find these women, she said, sliding her notes across his desk. Get them to talk before whoever hired them silences them too. Already on it. June entered the study carrying a tablet. We found one of them. Seo-yoon. She's in Busan, working at a hotel. Looks like she came into money recently. Paid off her mother's debts. Bought a new apartment. Far more than she could have saved on a maid's salary. So she was paid off. Hyunwoo studied the surveillance photos. The second one, dead. Found in the Han River 3 days ago. Ruled a suicide. But the coroner noted defensive wounds that suggest otherwise. June's expression was grim. They're eliminating loose ends. Then we need to get to Seo-yoon before they do. Zara stood decisively. I'll go to Busan. She'll talk to me. She knows me. We worked together for months. Absolutely not. Hyunwoo's voice was flat. You're not going anywhere near this. It's too dangerous. She won't talk to your men. They'll terrify her, and she'll shut down or run. Zara met his gaze steadily. But me? I'm just another maid who got lucky. She'll see me as safe. She'll talk. Zara, you said I was your partner. That means trusting me to help. This is how I help. She moved around the desk, placed her hands on his shoulders. Send security. Send June. Wrap me in protection if you must. But let me do this. Let me be useful. The muscle in his jaw jumped as he fought between protecting her and respecting her capability. Finally, reluctantly, you go nowhere without June and a full security team. You were a wire. And if anything feels wrong, you extract immediately. The trip to Busan was tense. Zara sat in the back of the armored vehicle with June, the wire taped carefully to her skin beneath her simple blouse. She dressed down deliberately, wanting to look approachable, non-threatening, like the maid she used to be rather than the mafia wife she'd become. Hyunwoo had wanted to come, but they'd both agreed his presence would destroy any chance of Seo-yoon talking freely. The hotel where Seo-yoon worked was modest but clean, catering to business travelers and families. Zara entered alone, her security team positioned strategically around the building. She spotted Seo-yoon immediately, working the front desk, looking tired and nervous, jumping at every sound. Seo-yoon, Zara approached slowly, keeping her voice gentle. It's me, Zara. The young woman's face went pale. You shouldn't be here. You need to leave. Now. I just want to talk. 5 minutes. Please. Zara glanced at the security cameras. She knew June was watching from outside. I'm not here to hurt you. I just need to understand what happened. You know what happened? You were there. Seo Yun's hands were shaking. You almost died. And now you're Mrs. Park and I'm just trying to survive. Survive what? Who paid you, Seo Yun? Who threatened you? Zara leaned against the desk, close enough to speak quietly. Because I know you didn't want this. I know you cared about Taeyong. You used to read to him every night before I started. So what made you help people who wanted him dead? Tears filled Seo Yun's eyes. They said they'd kill my brother. He's only 14. They showed me pictures of him leaving school, walking home. They knew everything about him. His schedule, his friends, which route he took home. And all I had to do was confirm when Taeyong would be home alone. That's it. Just confirm the schedule. Who was it? Who approached you? I never saw their faces. It was all phone calls, text messages from burner numbers. But the money, it came from an account linked to Chairman Beck's businesses. I checked. I'm not stupid. I knew who I was dealing with. Seo Yun was crying openly now. And then Ji Woo, the other maid who helped them, she ended up dead. They said it was suicide, but I know better. They killed her to tie up loose ends. I'm next. I know I'm next. Not if you testify. Not if you help us bring them down. Zara reached across the desk, took the trembling girl's hand. Hyunwoo will protect you. New identity, new life, your brother too. But we need you to be willing to tell this to the council, to provide evidence. And if I do, if I testify against Chairman Beck, his reach is everywhere. Even with a new identity, even with protection, he'll find me eventually. That's how this world works. You know that. Seo Yun looked at Zara with desperate eyes. You got out by getting shot. By becoming untouchable through marriage. I don't have that option. I'm just a maid who made a terrible choice, and now I'm dead either way. Zara's throat tightened with understanding and empathy. This young woman, barely 21, caught in impossible circumstances, making choices that would haunt her forever. Just like Sergeant Kim. Just like so many others who existed on the edges of their violent world. What if there was another way? What if we could prove Chairman Beck ordered the hit without you having to testify directly? Would you be willing to help with that? Before Seo Yun could answer, the hotel's glass doors exploded inward. 3 men in dark suits stormed in, guns drawn, and Zara's blood turned to ice as she recognized the situation. They'd been followed. Or worse, someone had known she was coming here. Get down. June's voice crackled in her earpiece as her security team engaged. Zara dove behind the front desk, pulling Seo Yun down with her as bullets shredded the lobby. Guests screamed, running for exits. The sound of gunfire was deafening, bringing back visceral memories of the attack that had nearly killed her. But this time she wasn't freezing. This time she was ready. She spotted a fire extinguisher mounted on the wall behind the desk. Grabbed it. When I say run, you run for the back exit. Don't stop. Don't look back. June's men will get you out. She met Seo Yun's terrified eyes. Trust me. You're going to get yourself killed again. Seo Yun was sobbing. Not today. Zara pulled the pin on the extinguisher. Run. She stood, sprayed foam in a wide arc that caught 2 of the attackers off guard, momentarily blinding them. June and his team used the distraction to take them down with precise shots. The third attacker went for Seo Yun's fleeing form, but Zara launched the heavy extinguisher with all her strength. It caught him in the head, sending him sprawling. June finished him with a bullet between the eyes. The entire engagement lasted maybe 40 seconds. 3 attackers dead. Seo Yun escaped through the back with 2 of June's men. Zara stood in the destroyed hotel lobby, her ears ringing, her hands shaking with adrenaline, and realized she'd just been in her second gunfight in a month. What had her life become? June appeared at her side, checking her for injuries with efficient hands. You're clear. No hits. Mrs. Park, we need to move. Police response time here is under 5 minutes, and we cannot be connected to this scene. They extracted quickly, professionally, leaving no trace beyond 3 dead bodies and destroyed security footage. In the vehicle racing back to Seoul, Zara's hands finally started to shake for Rayal. June noticed, pulled out a bottle of water. Drink. Adrenaline crash is coming. They knew. Zara's voice was hoarse. Someone knew I was going to Busan. Knew I'd be at that hotel. Yes. June's expression was grim, which confirms what we suspected. The traitor has access to our current operations. They're listening to us somehow. We need to tell Hyunwoo. Now. But even as she said it, her phone was ringing. Hyunwoo's name on the screen. She answered to his tightly controlled voice. Are you hurt? No. June got us out. But Hyunwoo, they knew. They were waiting for us. I know. The party is tonight. Change of plans. We're accelerating everything. When you get back, we go on the offensive. No more waiting. No more investigating. Tonight we end this. The mansion was in chaos when they returned. The party setup was complete. Guests would arrive in 3 hours, but underneath the celebration preparations, weapons were being distributed, security positions reinforced, loyalists called in from every territory. This wasn't just a party anymore. This was a trap, and Zara was the bait that would spring it. Hyunwoo met her in the foyer, pulled her into his arms with barely restrained violence, his entire body shaking. When June radioed that you were under fire, his voice broke. I thought I'd lost you. Again. I'm okay. I'm here. She held him just as tightly, breathing in his familiar scent, grounding herself in his solid presence. Seo Yun got away. She's willing to help. And we know for certain now that Chairman Beck is behind this. Then tonight we take him down. Him and anyone else involved. Hyunwoo pulled back, his hands framing her face. But I need you to promise me something. When this starts, when everything goes to hell, you take Tae-young and you run. Mrs. Choi knows the safe routes. You get out and you don't look back until I call you. I'm not leaving you to fight this alone. You're not leaving me. You're protecting our son. That's your role tonight. Not warrior. Not investigator. Mother. Can you do that? His eyes were desperate, pleading. Please, Zara. I can fight anyone if I know you and Tae-young are safe. But if you're in danger, if I'm worrying about you, I'm vulnerable, distracted, dead. So please, promise me. The logic was sound even if everything in her rebelled against it. I promise. When it starts, I take Tae-young and run. The party began with false gaiety and underlying tension that everyone could feel. The mansion glittered with lights and expensive decorations. Guests arrived in designer clothes and practiced smiles. Musicians played. Champagne flowed. And underneath it all, armed guards watched from shadows, waiting for the moment everything would explode. Zara stood beside Hyunwoo in the receiving line, greeting guests with grace she'd learned over these intense weeks, playing the role of devoted wife while her heart hammered against her ribs. She wore a stunning red dress that made her look like a queen, with Hyunwoo in a matching black suit, presenting the image of a united, powerful couple. Mi-sun arrived with her father, both dressed to kill in more ways than one. Chairman Beck's smile was oily and false as he congratulated them on their marriage. Mi-sun's eyes promised murder. What a lovely party, she said with acid sweetness. I do hope nothing ruins it. Celebrations can be so unpredictable. Indeed they can. Hyunwoo's arm tightened around Zara's waist. One never knows when unpleasant truths might surface. The verbal sparring continued as more guests arrived. Elder Kwan with his calculating eyes. Various lieutenants and their families. Business associates from legitimate and less legitimate ventures. All gathered under one roof. All potential suspects. All potential targets. At exactly 9 p.m., Hyunwoo called for attention. Tapped his champagne glass. The crowd quieted. Thank you all for coming to celebrate with us tonight. My wife and I wanted to share this moment with the people who matter most in our lives. Family. Associates. Friends. His pause before friends was loaded with irony. We've been through so much these past weeks. The attack on my home. My son. The investigation into who betrayed us. The temperature in the room dropped several degrees. Guests shifted uncomfortably. Mi-sun's face went carefully blank. Chairman Beck's smile tightened. But tonight isn't about darkness. Tonight is about new beginnings. About the future. About my wife, who sacrificed everything to protect what I love most. Hyunwoo turned to Zara, raised his glass. To Zara, my warrior, my queen, my heart. The toast was made. Glasses raised. And in that moment of distraction, June's voice crackled in hidden earpieces worn by loyalists throughout the room. We have confirmation. Chairman Beck just made contact with an outside team. 3 vehicles approaching the mansion. Armed assault imminent. This is it. Hyunwoo's hand found Zara's, squeezed once. Their eyes met. This was goodbye, at least for now. Go, he said quietly, so only she could hear. Take our son and go. I love you. I love you too. The words came out fierce and desperate. Don't you dare die on me, Hyunwoo Park. Never. He kissed her once, hard and fast. A promise sealed with breath and heat. Then, louder, for the room. Zara, darling, would you check on Tae-young? I think all this excitement might have woken him. The code phrase. The signal. Zara left the ballroom with carefully measured steps, fighting every instinct to run. Behind her, she heard Hyunwoo's voice turn to steel. Now then. While my wife is gone, why don't we discuss who tried to kill my son? Chairman Beck, would you care to explain why your accounts funded the attack? The room exploded into chaos. Shouting. Accusations. And then, exactly as predicted, gunfire as Chairman Beck's hidden men revealed themselves, as outside assault teams breached the perimeter, as the carefully planned trap sprang closed. But Zara was already running, grabbing Tae-young from his room where Mrs. Choi had been waiting, racing through secret passages that led to the garage, to the armored vehicle idling with engine running. Behind them, the mansion filled with violence. Ahead of them, safety, escape, survival. Where's father? Tae-young cried as Zara buckled him in. He's fighting. Protecting us. Like he always does. Zara's voice shook, but stayed strong. And we're going to be safe, so he can come find us. Okay. The boy nodded, trusting her completely. Mrs. Choi climbed into the driver's seat, surprisingly steady for her age. And they drove into the Seoul night, leaving behind the man Zara had grown to love, praying he'd survive the war happening in their home. 3 hours passed like 3 years. They waited in a secure safe house, surrounded by guards, with no word. No communication. Just silence and prayer, and Taeyong crying himself to sleep in Zara's arms. And then, finally, her phone rang. Hyunwoo's voice, exhausted but alive. It's over. Come home. When they returned to the mansion, it was damaged but standing. Bodies had been removed. Blood cleaned. Chairman Beck was dead, shot by Hyunwoo personally. Mi-sun was in custody, broken and confessing. Elder Kwan had been exposed as a secondary conspirator, dealt with by the council. The traitors were purged. The organization secure again. Hyunwoo stood in the foyer, covered in blood that wasn't his suit destroyed, looking every inch the Winter Dragon. But when he saw Zara, when Taeyong ran to him, and he caught his son and held him like salvation itself, his expression transformed. Became human. Became the man who loved them more than power, more than safety, more than his own life. And Zara knew, watching him, that she'd found something she'd thought lost forever. Home. Family. Love built not on fairy tales, but on bullets and blood and the choice to stand together when everything tried to tear them apart. If you made it to the end of Zara and Hyunwoo's incredible journey, you're truly part of our story family. Hit that like button if you felt every emotion with them. Subscribe because we have more stories that will take you on unforgettable journeys. And comment below telling us, what was your favorite moment? Was it when Zara took those bullets? When they finally kissed? Or when Hyunwoo told the room she owned his heart? We read every single comment, and your support means everything. Until next time, remember, sometimes the greatest love stories are written in sacrifice, survival, and choosing each other every single day.